My name is Chris Bremner. I am one of two people who runs and manages the StarFit program. So a couple things. I want this to be, hopefully, like an interactive discussion. Lecture sounds to me like one of the most boring words in the dictionary. So interrupt me, put your hands up, ask questions. Otherwise, I'll start picking on people, and then that's no fun for anybody. Okay, without further ado. So today, I just want to talk a little bit about calories, specifically counting calories. For a lot of people know, it's a popular way of attempting to lose weight. I personally vehemently disagree with it. I think there's a lot of sound reason to disagree with it. So I just want to talk about some alternatives, see what you guys think, see what you know, hopefully teach you guys some things, hopefully you guys can teach me some things. So to start, as hopefully I can make you guys see during our time in here, different kinds of calories. I mean, you can have 50 calories of broccoli and 50 calories of Coke, or you can take a million different examples of two different kinds of food. Different kinds of calories are going to have very different effects on things like satiety, hormonal response in your body, how they affect reward centers in your brain. For example, sugar. You eat sugar, you want more sugar, and the more you eat, the more you want, right? You don't have that issue with, say, steak. Nutrient density, that kind of thing, a whole bunch of stuff. All right, working so far. What do you get reactions to that? There is no right or wrong answer to this. But so the idea is, and this is kind of what we're going to be looking at, is those are two different foods, very different foods. They are, on the surface at least, they appear to be nutritionally very much the same based on what's called macronutrients, which is proteins, fat, carbs. Does anyone here think that if you had someone eating on the left versus some eating off the right side every day, that after a year, does anyone think those two people would look exactly the same? I mean, they're eating the same calories. No, okay, you guys are too smart for this talk then, if that's what you're already saying no. Yeah, you're right, I would argue that they wouldn't, and we're gonna kind of talk about why not. So, part of looking at that first side is understanding what nutrient density is versus caloric density, right? So nutrient density is just dealing with how nutritious any given food is on a per calorie basis, where caloric density is exactly that, dealing with how how dense a given food has, how many calories a given food has. The winning combination, not surprisingly, is generally nutrient dense, calorically light. And with this presentation, and probably some I'm going to do in the future, everything is going to tie back into things you guys have all probably heard before. So what are some foods that would be calorically light and super nutrient dense? There's a few major groups. Anyone? Spinach, yeah, absolutely, perfect. What another one? What is it? Spinach is a broader group of what subset of? There we go, right. Even meat, right, I would argue is very, very nutrient dense. It's going to be more calorically dense than vegetables are, but it's still, like a pop, for example, is calorically very dense and nutrient void, okay? So you always want to look for nutrient dense, calorie light. The other part of that is understanding macronutrition versus micronutrition. So if I go back to this slide, this is macronutrition, protein, carbs, and fat. Here these two things look, I realize the numbers are slightly different, but they're basically identical, right? In terms of calories, protein, fat, and carbs. Micronutrition is dealing more with the minutia, if you will, I guess. It's vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, that kind of thing. Those kind of things are not listed on a label, right? There's no content for vitamin C here, right? I mean, the salad is going to kill that burger in terms of vitamin C. Phytonutrients are chemicals found in vegetables and fruits that, quite honestly, science doesn't even fully understand yet, beyond the fact that they are extremely beneficial for human consumption. Things like that. It doesn't speak to phytonutrients. So it's a mistake to look at something just based on macronutrients, proteins, fat, and carbs. Oh, these things are the same. They're not even close to the same. Okay. So we're going to look at specific examples. So say you have 750 calories of pop. Like that's like your big gulp from the gas station, right? So in that 750 calories, it is 100% sugar, 186 grams or 46 teaspoons of sugar. It is a lot. That's all it is, okay? So what does this do for us? Being that it's liquid, watch out for liquid calories in general, but being that it's liquid, there's no fiber, so you have fiber-free sugars, so there is basically instantaneous absorption of those sugars, right? There's nothing to slow the speed of that sugar down. That in turn creates a massive blood sugar spike and an insulin response, okay? What does that mean? Your blood sugar takes off like crazy. As a result of that, that increases things like belly fat, inflammation. Inflammation is a whole topic in and of itself, but just know inflammation is not a good thing. It drives LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, triglycerides, it raises blood pressure, can lower testosterone. Bottom line, it's not doing anything, at least I personally want a part of. I don't think any of you guys would either. Insulin disrupts neurotransmitters. This is kind of another thing we'll get into more probably in a talk maybe in the future. But so table sugar, you guys all know what table sugar is, right? The white sugar you put on cereal or whatever, is half sucrose and it's half fructose. Okay, fructose and sucrose are extremely different. So half of the sweetener in that pop is going to be fructose, and why that's important here. If I can work this little pointer thing, where is the dot? Whatever. Insulin disrupts neurotransmitter, leaving your body still hungry. One of the things that fructose does is it does not signal your brain that you're full. So why does that matter? Well, it's dangerous because if you just consumed 750 calories of soda that did absolutely nothing for you, your body says, and we're still hungry. You didn't do anything. So it very quickly and easily can kick off a cascade of more, and you're now you've consumed 2 of those things and you're still hungry. Are you guys with me? And so you can begin to see why that's bad. Glucose, on the other hand, while still being a sugar, it will send a satiety signal to your brain saying, we're good, we're full. Fructose does not do that. Keep picking on fructose. Goes straight to your liver, manufacturing more fat, driving more insulin. Fructose drives non-alcoholic fatty liver. I mean, they see that in very young kids nowadays. Hopefully it's not because those kids have a drinking problem at age 5. It's the added sugars, it's fructose, it's too much of it. It puts you in storage mode for everything you eat. Further perpetuates the hunger feeling like I was talking about earlier. It's 750 calories that are 100% empty and did nothing for you. So 750 broccoli calories. 67 grams of fiber, it's 23% protein by weight, 9% fat, 68% carb, and there's only 1.5 teaspoons of sugar in the entire thing. So there's a super high fiber content in that broccoli, which fiber in general is going to prevent some of those calories from even being absorbed by your body. How many? There's quite frankly no way to know. It's going to differ on an individual basis, but it can be a significant amount. It's another reason why counting calories is hard, because if there is 100 calories of 100 calories in food X, your body is not necessarily going to absorb all 100 calories. It's going to depend on your individual genetic makeup, what the biome in your stomach looks like, and things like fiber content of that food. So if you're trying to count calories and it's got 100, it doesn't matter it's 100, it matters how many you use. So how many do you count? I have no idea, right? There's no blood sugar response to broccoli, so you don't have that insulin, so you don't have driving belly fat, you don't have LDL cholesterol going up, you don't have triglycerides going through the roof. Your stomach, big time, would descend. It would signal a full signal to your brain. You'd be full very quickly. There's no triggering reward addiction center in your brain like the sugar that's like more and more and more. You're not going to get that with broccoli. And at the end of the day, it is 750 calories that are packed with nutrients your body both needs and can use. Back to what I was touching on earlier, talking about the phytonutrients. So broccoli has a phytochemical called indole, which actually converts excess estrogen in your body into a much more inert substance, which is a very good thing. So I just mentioned that. That's just one example of something you're never going to find that on a label. When you're comparing the calories of 2 things to each other, you're never going to see that. So all cruciferous vegetables in general, which is broccoli, cauliflower, I'm pretty sure Brussels sprouts is a cruciferous vegetable, they convert excess estrogen in your body into a much more inert substance. Estrogen is a hormone. It's especially important for females. I'm not saying estrogen is bad. What is bad is what's called xenoestrogens. What is that? You get them from microwaving plastics. You get them from pesticides in your food. There's supposedly forms of radiation can cause it. I mean, but estrogen is, believe it or not, is a big issue, especially for males in society. So I mean, if getting your estrogen in check can be an important piece of the puzzle for some people when it comes to weight loss, and eating things like cruciferous vegetables like broccoli is a way to protect yourself from that, if that hopefully answers your question, Sally. Spinach is not, I don't think is a cruciferous, but spinach would have its whole own host of cool little magic things that it would do just like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Janet, you had your hand up too.
I was just wondering about the sugar. Is there any natural or other substitutes that don't have those effects?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, one I would try and steer you guys towards is stevia. Just because stevia is natural, it's not an artificial sweetener. Um, if you really drill into the science on artificial sweeteners, at the end of the day, quite honestly, the jury is largely still out on. Some people say that they can cause insulin responses and lead to weight gain. I tend to agree with that, but the science is still pretty split. My personal thought would say, why risk it? You know what I mean? So stevia is a pretty good one. I guess that's my short. Agave, one I would personally caution against is like agave. I think that gets an unfair good reputation. Go back to your desk if you're curious on agave. It's too long to get into that, but just Google agave, good or bad, and just see what you read. I think a lot of people might be interested to see what they find.
Oh God, I'm loud anyways. How much is too much estrogen? When do you know? Hey, are there some kind of signal your body puts out besides maybe added weight in your
Yeah,
hips?
yeah, that's a good question.
And how do you know when your levels are too high? Because I like to eat tofu sometimes, or I like a soy chai from Starbucks, and my guilty pleasure.
Right.
So.
Oh. No, I don't. I mean, so yeah, and I don't know if you know that or not, but yeah, soy is one that really gets picked on for being super high in xenoestrogen, and like for starfit purposes, we kick it to the curb for a while. For guys, I believe the word is metastasizing. I'm not trying to be funny or gross, but it's when men kind of get man boobs, and they could too much TMI, but they become broad and pointy. I mean, it's a very specific look. It's not like a flat pec muscle. Excess body fat for females. Cellulite sometimes can be an indicator. Difficulty putting on muscle mass, difficulty losing weight. The symptoms of excess estrogen can mimic a lot of other things. I would say if you're someone who's been, making a run at weight loss or making a run at getting fit, energy is low, you're having a really hard time doing it, it'd be worth something exploring. To sit here and say, oh my God, it's excess estrogen. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, that would be probably a better thing for your doc. But yeah, energy levels, problems changing your body comp, yeah. I mean, sexual dysfunction is another form of it, another way it can manifest itself. So. Anybody else? All right, moving right along. Okay, so I think another point, another thing that's important to understand is calories are not just calories. It's not just something you put in your face when you're hungry to take away the hunger pangs. Food is raw data to your body. Whether you want it to or not, everything you eat is going to give your body a very specific and individualized set of instructions. So the point is, make sure you're eating food that's giving your body the messages you want and not advertently telling it to do something else. Back to our cruciferous vegetables example, and I'm not trying to scare anyone here, but cruciferous veggies communicate at the genetic level, telling your body to quite literally switch off genes that can be cancer causing, okay? It doesn't mean you're never gonna get cancer if you eat a lot of cruciferous veggies, but they are very cancer protective. Okay, conversely, things like bleached white flour, like this lady in her, whatever that thing is, donut or sugar-coated bagel, those white flour can switch on cancer-causing genes. Again, that doesn't mean if you ever eat a donut or a bagel, you're gonna get cancer. It just means one is going to protect you, one is going to, increase your odds. And that applies to all food. Everything you eat is telling your body inside, do this, turn that on, turn this off, upregulate this. Fish oil is a supplement. It's one of the few I really like. One of the things that fish oil does is it tells your body to burn more fat, right, at the genetic level. That doesn't mean go buy fish oil and take tons of fish oil and you're gonna melt away, but it's just one of those things that helps. Every kind of food is speaking to your body. When you just start paying attention and counting calories, they're both 50 calories, who cares? That, I feel like that message kind of gets lost. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, there's my sweet graphic that I got off of Google, digging into the numbers, right? Okay, so consider the following scenario. If someone overeats by just 20 calories a day, and you guys know how small 20 calories is? 20 calories is a little too much ketchup on one French fry. It's one extra French fry. It's one bite of the breakfast cereal. It is a small, it's minuscule. It's nothing. We're not talking about a whole second serving here. You overeat by just 20 calories a day, and I'm saying overeat, so 20 times 365, 7,300 extra calories annually. That's roughly 2 pounds of fat per year, okay, because I said overeat. That means someone between the ages of 20 and 50, 30 years, you're gonna put on 2 pounds of fat. I mean, that's gonna be 60 pounds of fat between 20 and 50. Certainly, we all know people who have probably done that. I'll tell you right now, I'm not gonna let that happen to me. There's plenty of thin people walking around too who that didn't happen to, right? So what are the implications of that? If that's true, and if counting calories matter that much, what does that imply? That implies that everybody who's walking around here lean not only knows how many calories they need, and you'd have to know it exactly because we're seeing what a small margin for error you have. So not only do you have to know that number, which show me anybody who actually knows that number, you have to then hit that number on a daily basis. The mathematical odds of that are literally infinitesimally small for numerous reasons. Things like I touched on earlier, right? Just because something has 100 calories worth of food in it doesn't mean your body's gonna get 100 calories out of it. Protein, for example, there's something out there called the thermic effect of food. If I eat roughly 100 calories worth of a chicken breast, my body is gonna burn 25 calories of that chicken breast just digesting that food. So I really only got 75. You see what I'm saying? So you start trying to figure out, keeping track of all these numbers and adding them all up and how many calories did I really get and how many do I really need? I mean, if anyone counts calories, I'm not sure being to be insulting, but it's ludicrous to me. And I think at the end of the day, this is one of the biggest things to understand. Understand you are not a calculator, right? It's not, the whole energy in, energy out. One of the biggest mistakes I see, I know Tony sees, it's the public's view of a diet. It is the biggest loser. It is, you gotta work out more and exercise less. That's like filling your car up halfway and asking it to go the same distance as it would on a full tank. You can't increase energy expenditure and decrease the amount of energy you take in. You're defying laws of physics. It doesn't happen. Yeah. What did I say? Eat less, work out more, eat less is what I was going for. Thank you, right? My goal is to slightly confuse everyone. No, I was kidding. No, but understand that you're not a calculator. You don't eat exactly 2,000 calories and burn exactly 2,000 calories. There's numerous other biological factors that contribute to both not only how much weight and or fat you store, but specifically even where you store it, right? Things like sleep. Number 1 and 2 up here, sleep and stress, huge, right? I think people in general discount I don't need sleep, I'm not stressed out, it does bother you, and it does affect you significantly. Exercise, your genetics, huge. Hormones, the kind of food you ate, your body's ability to extract calories out of food. So there's so many other mitigating factors that go into trying to balance out the energy in, energy out caloric equation that it's ludicrous. Keep using that word a lot today. Another flaw I find with using calories only is you get weight loss versus fat loss. So there is a huge difference between weight loss versus fat loss. Does everyone understand what that means when I say that? Kind of, yeah, I see some heads nodding. So I would argue nobody in this room wants weight loss. I would argue maybe, and I'm sure not even everyone in here, but what people want, they want fat loss. Fat loss is what makes your coworker go, wow, what did you do? You look really different, right? Indiscriminate weight loss, if I lose 20 pounds and 10 pounds of that comes from muscle, I don't know. I would have a hard time saying good job to that. If anyone's ever seen The Biggest Loser, I was debating how to phrase this earlier. These people drop some of them literally hundreds of pounds, 100, 200 pounds, but they don't look good. They look like smaller, fatter versions of themselves, right? I mean, the guy who was once huge is still, but everything that was still hanging off in places he didn't want it to is still doing all that same thing. It's because you didn't change body composition, right? You took off 100 pounds off of that guy, great. 50 pounds might have been muscle. Muscle is one of the primary things that's gonna power your metabolism, right? It's like having a car that's got a V8 versus a V4, and you're sitting at a stoplight idling, what's gonna use more gas? The V8, right? Same thing with muscle. If you're just sitting around, the person who's got more muscle is gonna sit there chewing up more calories just sitting there because they've got a bigger engine going. You with me on that? So when you lose a significant amount of weight and a significant portion of that weight loss comes from your muscle mass, it's like chopping 4 cylinders off your engine or whatever it may be. So smart nutrition, and especially when you combine that with intelligent exercise, leads to fat loss. And fat loss should be the goal, not indiscriminate weight loss. Is Jacques in here? Jacques, are you in here? I don't see you in here. All right, so I got one of our guys from Starfit up here next. This is Jacques. I'm using these pictures with his permission. Does anyone want to venture a guess at how much weight he lost? That's him at the beginning. The second picture is him at the end, 16 weeks. There's no wrong answers. Someone's got to at least give me a couple numbers. Yeah, you guys see, I know you guys were too smart. Yeah, he lost like 4 pounds. But I mean, to me anyways, he looks way different. And it's not because he went and just lost a ton of weight. He changed his body composition. And that, I mean, you know, losing weight is not all about vanity. It's obviously very much about health, but let's be honest, it doesn't hurt to, a lot of people want to lose weight to help the way they look too. So he sent me his pictures on his own accord, and I thought that was an awesome illustration because and you know, incidentally too, if he was standing on a scale in his own house, the scale would have barely changed. So I'm going way off on a tangent, but that's another reason why scales are not a very good tool if you're kind of undertaking this journey, because it wouldn't tell that story. What's that, scales? I don't like it. No, I don't either. I always say, if you like the way you look, who cares what the scale says? Seriously. So when it comes to marketing and all this stuff, companies rely on consumer ignorance. Okay, don't think that these big food companies, they are not sitting around their boardrooms thinking, how can we make Sherry the most healthy, nutritious possible food? They're thinking, how can we drive our profit margins and get people to buy more of our products? That is the profit motive. So, knowing what you guys now know, now that you know everything after this little talk, how do you guys think about these 100-calorie snack packs? Are they good, bad, indifferent? Bad, yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah, I would argue more bad. Does that mean you should never eat them? No. But they rely on the consumer going, oh, look, there's barely any calories in these. These are good for me, right? Where's my little laser? Any one of these things up here. Yeah, popcorn is fiber, and certainly some of these would be better than others. That popcorn up there is going to come with some kind of Franken butter probably on it, you know, some kind of buttery oil. God knows only what it really is. I would argue that any one of these 100-calorie snack packs up here, for the average person, and certainly for anybody who's got, hang on, I'll get to you one second, Angela. Any one of those is going to take your body and make it release a whole ton of insulin. Right? When you have insulin circulating in your system, you're in storage mode. Your body fat goes on lockdown. Depending on how much body fat you have, you might have just put your body on lockdown for the next 24 hours. You go to the gym and work out, you're not going to touch your fat supply. So I think it's a kind of a dirty trick. And like I say at the bottom there, good nutrition should be based upon nutrient content, not caloric content. Go ahead. I'm going to get to Angela first because you had your hand up, yeah?
I would argue that the popcorn is probably one of the worst things you could eat because of the chemicals that are released in the bag when it's popped. So if you're going to eat popcorn, you should pop it naturally with an oil yourself.
I would 100% agree with that. And that's back to the xenoestrogen thing. But Angela's touching on there. I have no idea what they are. I don't really want to know. But the chemicals they put in that bag when they pop it, I've seen numerous articles written on that alone. It's some scary stuff. So yeah, popcorn not bad, but cancer, absolutely, cancer-causing and toxic and full of xenoestrogen. So if you want popcorn, have popcorn, but just make it yourself, right? I mean, take the whole extra 5 minutes and make a pan and do all the good stuff. Someone else, you, Terry?
Yep. Can you address whole food versus processed foods in that equation? So talking about are any of these good? So if you have something 100 calories in a whole food, versus 100 calories in anything.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, these guys, their marketing spin is 100 calories. That's what catches the consumer's eye. But hopefully this is becoming evident at this point. The calories don't matter as much. The idea is, like we said, the food communicates on a genetic level with your body. It's going to give you a specific set of instructions. So something processed like that is probably going to tell your body all of the wrong things. Go into storage mode. I would argue most of those things up there, if you eat that in another 20 minutes, you're going to be hungry again. They're going to work on the reward center of your brain. Versus if you have 100 calories of chicken breast or 50 calories of chicken breast and 50 calories of avocado made into a tasty little snack, that's going to keep you full much longer. It's going to give you, amino acids to build your muscles. The fat in the avocado is really good for your brain, cell membranes, testosterone. And there's a whole list of things that the whole food is going to do that the processed stuff won't. In general, people ask me sometimes, if you had one piece of advice, what would it be? Eat real food. If it's got a box or a can or a bag, if the flipping container it comes in has to tell you how healthy it is, when was the last time you saw broccoli stamped with healthy? They don't need to stamp it, right? We know what it is. If someone's trying to convince you, I mean, you know, Starkey doesn't package their hearing aids and put best hearing aid ever on the outside of the box because we already know it's awesome. Same with healthy food. You know it doesn't need to convince you. So don't fall victim to that kind of stuff. If they're making a health claim, if it comes in a box, if it comes in a can, I'm not saying never ever eat it. Just the little bell in your head should go off. Okay, maybe this isn't quite what it appears to be. With nutrition in general, and even exercise to a degree too, it's really hard to make blanket statements. Like, people want to classify foods as good and as bad. And I think the answer is usually it depends. I mean, there's extreme examples, right? Should I eat a bag of sugar? No. End of story. But people say bread. Bread is a good one. Should I eat bread? My answer is, I don't know, should you? So it depends. Are you a 50-year-old female middle-aged office worker looking to lose weight, or are you a 18-year-old male high school athlete looking to put on muscle? Because the answer to your question, right, is gonna depend on those variables. Genetics too, things like that. Some people's stomachs, my wife, for example, can eat, I don't want to say way more of this stuff, but way more of this stuff than I can or would, and she can get away with it. And it's just because it's the microbiome in her gut, it's her genetics, it's her ancestry, wherever it comes from, right? What works for one person may not work as well as another person. There will be people who do StarFit who foods X, Y, and Z work awesome for them, but they work horrible for this guy over here. So anybody who ever tries to give you absolutes with nutrition, be a little skeptical, because it's usually not that cut and dry. Am I answering your question? What was your question? Protein bars, thank you. Okay, yeah. So yeah, no, protein bars, I think a real chicken breast would be better than a protein bar, but you also have to realize there's what's ideal and then there's what's realistic, right? We, considering most of us are at work for, 8-10 hours a day, you bring your lunch, you eat your lunch. If you're hungry in the middle of the afternoon, it's a lot easier to bring that protein bar and have that as a snack than keeping a chicken breast in your pocket, right? And the protein bars can still be good. Just because it's not ideal doesn't make it bad, right? And there are people who protein bars will work really well for, and protein bars who won't work as well for some other people. But no, I don't think protein bars are bad. I think if you're going to buy one, and this would apply to most food that comes in a package, look at the ingredient list. The shorter the list, the better. The more of those things in that ingredient list that you know what they are, like, if it says flour, you know what flour is. If it says biomethylene hexane triphosphate, you don't know what that is, your body probably doesn't either. You know what I mean? So there's varying degrees too. I mean, how many ingredients are in it? Do you know what they are? How much sugar is in there? So, and I think that might even be the end.
I have one question back here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that with any of those, even with a short list of ingredients, the sugar there aren't any that don't have a lot of sugar in the protein bars.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what your definition of low sugar is. What do you call low sugar? 10 grams, 5 grams, 20 grams? Below 10? There's a few that do. I mean, like a Kind bar, which, are you guys familiar with Kind bars? Yeah, I mean, it's borderline a protein bar. It's a nut-based bar. I think most of those are 5 grams. Quest bars, I don't know, Tony, if you know what those have in them, but I'm pretty sure some of those flavors are below 10. But you're right. I mean, Quest bar. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Quest bar, Quest, just like the way it sounds, Quest, is, yeah. No, and the thing about Quest bars is too, I mean, they taste a little too good. But you can find them. I think they're out there. I think it takes a lot more looking. I think the average protein bar, if you pick it up, will have between 15 and 20 grams, and I don't think the average consumer takes time to pick that up and look what they're getting themselves into. So at the end of the day, and this first point is as important as everything else I've said, to say calories are irrelevant is not true either, right? It is absolutely possible to overeat on healthy food. You can eat too much chicken and broccoli, believe it or not. It's just much harder to do. Your body has systems in place to prevent you from doing that. It doesn't have the systems in place to prevent you from overeating on things like the processed foods, right? There's processed food, short circuits your brain. Like the fructose example, it tells your brain, we're still hungry, even if you've eaten 2,000 calories of it. So quantity absolutely matters. It does. To say it doesn't matter that's inaccurate. However, I think it's a lot more accurate to say it's more important to consider where your calories come from than just trying to arbitrarily count them and stack up this algebra equation where you have the same numbers on both sides, because there's way too many variables on your side of the equation with how your body, all the reasons we've talked about. Look at that. So that's it. So I hope you guys have some questions. I want to save a little time at the end of this for stuff. So Kyle, what do you got?
What are your thoughts on organic foods versus non-organic or GMO? If it costs twice as much, is it twice as good for me?
Right. I would be lying to you if I said I know the absolute answer to that. I don't know. I think common sense a little bit. I like to use the example of imagine a banana. When you get a banana, what do you do? What's the first thing you do? You take the peel off it and you eat it. So if you imagine a crop duster dusting a bunch of banana trees, I guess, the part that would be directly exposed to the pesticide, you're removing. I'm sure there would still be some of that pesticide in the fruit. Flip that with like a field of spinach, which is a broad leafy green. The same crop duster hitting that, the pesticides all landing right on that broad leaf, which is a perfect landing platform. So for me, I'm not a billionaire yet. I'm working on it. But so as I kind of pick and choose where I buy organic, like spinach or a broad leafy green, I would spend the extra $1 or $2 and get it organic. A banana where I'm going to peel the outside of that fruit off and not eat it, I would buy conventional. But the other thing, there's still, I am not an expert on this, but I know that they still use some heavy-duty chemicals in organic farming. It's just they can use, and this is where I'm not an expert, but there's different forms or something to that effect that you can use that can be classified for organic and some that are classified as non-organic, but it's not like organic is some Amish dude tilling the soil out there watering and there's a little more to it than that. So I think use your common sense. If you're not like an apple, you're going to eat the skin, maybe organic. Anything you're going to peel that outside off and not eat, that's probably a place where maybe if you're like me and not a billionaire yet, save your money and get conventional. So, but I agree. That's one of those. I know people that are vehemently on both sides of that. So fructose, the big evil sugar that I was talking about earlier, is one of the primary sugars in fruit. Fructose, fruit. The difference between fructose in a piece of fruit and fructose in a pop is huge. When it comes in fruit, it comes wrapped in fiber. So number one, instead of putting it in your stomach and your body having instant access to it, your body has to break down the fiber, so it's a much slower, it gets a much slower release when it's in a piece of fruit. It also comes bound up with a lot of water, vitamin, so water provides satiety, makes you full. It comes with a lot of fiber, which also makes you slow down with my talking. And it's bound with a lot of minerals, nutrients, that kind of thing that will add value to your body. One of the problems with sugar is, especially when you consume it in excess, is it actually costs your body nutrients. Things like magnesium, phosphorus, calcium. Calcium can be a big concern, especially for women as you guys get older. It costs your body's nutrients to process that sugar. So not only did the sugar do nothing for you, you kind of had to give back to it just so your body can deal with it. When you get it in a piece of fruit, it comes with the things that are going to allow your body to take care of that sugar and deal with it. It's going to be released in a much slower manner. I think fruit for like I said earlier, it depends. But for most of us, I don't think eating fruit should be a big concern. I don't think you should eat 25 pieces of fruit a day. I think that could be a little excessive. But I always go back to caveman, or think about where you're sitting right now. If you were in Minnesota 200 years ago in February, what would you have for fruit? I mean, as far as I know, nothing. 200 years ago, right? Yeah, summer, what would you have? You would have seasonal berries, apples, fruit. Has anybody here ever picked a wild strawberry? Not an organic, but a straight up truly wild berry. How big is that berry? It is tiny, right? It's like not these golf ball size, strawberries. So the fruit has changed a lot over time too, right? I mean, our ancestors 200 years ago would have seasonally available fruit that would be way more nutrient dense. Would have been a lot smaller, would have a lot less sugar, and they would have had it seasonally. Nowadays, you can walk down to any grocery store and get melons and berries the size of your head year round, right? I'm a big fan of, if you're ever stuck on like a food conundrum, what would your ancestors have done? How do they eat? How would a caveman eat? I think the closer you can eat to that, for most of us, the better. Yeah, I think, so her question is, if you're trying to lose fat, should you treat fruit like a dessert? I don't think it's a bad idea. You know, it depends how hard you want to be in yourself. We all know life isn't fair. One of the unfair things that when it comes to this kind of thing is the more fat a person has, the smaller your margin of error, right? So someone who's really lean, like Tony back there, Tony could eat way more pieces of fruit than someone who's got a significant amount of body fat because, this is again a topic for another time, but fat is not just this unsightly mass that sits there. It secretes its own hormones, adipokines, it interacts with the rest of your body, it does all kinds of nasty stuff. So the leaner you get, the greater your margin of error goes up, right? And the fatter you are, I don't have to say it, the smaller margin of error you have. So if you're a bigger person and you're really making a hard push to lose weight, yeah, I would restrict your fruit probably a little bit, but I wouldn't, to try and say that the fructose in that piece of fruit is anything like the sweetener in the pop or something I don't think you should be afraid of fruit. But yeah, I would probably limit your intake a little bit, slash calories.
I've always heard this, it goes into starvation mode. What is starvation mode?
Yeah, what is starvation mode? Okay. So back to the caveman thing. We hear now for probably everybody in this room, hopefully anyways, having enough food to eat is not an issue. You need food. There is almost literally furniture stores sell food, right? It's ridiculous. Gas stations, you can get a meal in a gas station. Food is everywhere. We're not going to run out of food. The caveman, back to my earlier example, 10,000 years ago, that was a very real concern. So when you slash calories, and I'm talking slash them drastically, yeah, your body, you'll lose weight rapidly probably at first, and then your body's like, whoa, are we starving? You're not, but like the reptilian brain part of you is thinking we might be starving, so your body reacts. Metabolism is reactive. If you cut way back on your calories, at first you lose weight, then your body's like, I see what you're up to. We're gonna turn the thermostat down. So it will downregulate all of your internal metabolic processes, and your body will just make you burn, your resting metabolic rate will decrease. So instead of sitting there burning 2,000 calories a day at rest, your body will now burn 1,200, right? So it'll slow that way down. And that's the biggest thing it does. It reacts to your food intake. It's incidentally too, that's why the whole, if I can get it right this time, work out more, eat less, doesn't work. It's the same idea. You eat way less, your energy expenditure goes way up. You know what you're trying to do. You're trying to lose weight. Your body's like, we are starving, right? So we're not going to let you lose any more weight. So I would offer up, and again, different time or different talk for different day. Instead of eat less, exercise more, eat more, exercise more. That actually works. Eat less, exercise less also works. Eat less, exercise more doesn't, because you create that. You create too big of an imbalance that your body doesn't like what's going on. It's got all kinds of nasty ways to slam the brakes on. So yeah, I think so that's a good one right there. There's a group on Facebook. I'm assuming most of you guys know how to work Facebook. If you just punch metabolic effect into the little search bar, some of what I said today, I took it verbatim right from those guys. They are a really good group to follow. They're smart people. There's a book called Primal Mind, Primal Body. That's one of my favorite books. And then I'm gonna give you an author. His name is Gary Taubes, which is just Gary, Gary, and Taubes. He's got a book called Good Calories, Bad Calories, and another one called Why We Get Fat. Both of them are pretty techy in parts. They get pretty serious into the science part, so if that's something you're into, great. If you just want the down and dirty, maybe not, but he's got some really good stuff. Yeah, I don't know, Barry. A lot of this is I'm pulling from a lot of different places. One more thing sorry, what's your name? Yep. Olive? Okay, so back to your question. The other thing, drastically slashing calories, one of the most metabolically expensive things for your body to do is keep muscle around. And we kind of touched on that earlier, right? So you drastically slash the calories, you're more likely to lose, if all you do is cut calories, you're more likely to lose muscle than you are fat, because it's more expensive for your body to keep that muscle around. So that's one of the other bigger downfalls. Slash calories, you lose muscle, your body's gonna turn the thermostat down anyways, now you have even less muscle, so now there's even less reason for it. So it's a whole cascade of bad news. Someday I'm going to do a talk on why the philosophy is junk. So she's saying, what's the difference between slashing calories versus intermittent fasting, right? Does everybody out here know what intermittent fasting is? Heard of that? Yeah. So intermittent fasting is a deliberate strategy. It can be, every one of you guys, hopefully, does it a little bit every day when you sleep at night. Most people, believe it or not, burn the most fat during sleep, right? So intermittent fasting can be it can be from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'm not going to eat. It can be I'm not going to eat on Friday, period. It is done. I think intermittent fasting works really well for some people, and for other people, back to my it depends. For other people, it doesn't work that well. Intermittent fasting is very good for getting your body to break down its own fat, put it back into circulation, and have your own body use that as fuel, which at the end of the day is how a human body should work. It increases things like human growth hormone, which is also a really good tool for keeping you lean and keeping you healthy. It's extremely restorative. The problem with intermittent fasting, and this is where it becomes to the it depends model, if you fast all day Friday, and this is absolutely happens to a lot of people, is if Saturday you just kill it in the kitchen because you didn't eat anything Friday and you had a rebound effect and you didn't eat anything Saturday on Friday, but Saturday you ate 4,000 calories because you didn't eat anything on Saturday, then I would say intermittent fasting is not for you. And that's just, I would say the only way to figure that out is to try it. On the other hand, if you're one of those people who you could not eat all day Friday and eat as you would normally on Sunday or Saturday, then intermittent fasting can be an absolutely great tool. Yeah, there's a doctor, I can't remember his name. He had a special on BBC. I think it's Michael Mosley, if anyone's interested in that. And he gets way into intermittent fasting and talking about the pros and cons. But if you can do it's remarkable the effect it can have if you can do it and just not have that huge compensatory super feeding, or whatever you want to call it, the next day, right? Sounds like fun though.
Can you touch on protein powders? There's so many different, I've heard pros and cons, different types, soy, veggie, whey.
Yep. So I would say number one, do what works for you. Meaning there is a fair number of people who, for whatever reason, their stomach just won't agree with whey and they find themselves really gassy or bloated or just not feeling so hot. If that's you, don't take whey protein, find something else. I would personally try and steer people away from soy, just because I'm not a fan of soy. It does have a lot of xenoestrogen in it. Soy is the highest or one of the highest GMO crops in the world. So I like whey. Whey is very bioavailable to your body. Bioavailable means if you eat 25 grams of protein, your body can use 23 grams or whatever it is, right? There's others there's pea protein is actually also very good if whey doesn't work for you. I would just say in general, kind of some of the stuff we talked about earlier, look at the label, look how much sugar is in there. I would say for a protein powder, it should be 2 to 3 grams or 0. It should be very low. Anything over 3 grams, I'd say no. The shorter the ingredient list, the better. Beyond that, I mean, it's going to be what sits well with your body. If you eat one, like I said, and it makes you feel like junk, don't eat that one. Try something else. Personally, I think whey, my favorite is whey just because it has a really high rate of being bioavailable, meaning what you eat is essentially what you're going to get. Some of the other ones are closer to 50%. If you're eating 20 grams, you're only going to get 10.
I use a whey protein, but it also has all natural sugars in it now. They've switched it over.
Like stevia probably is the sweetener in there, right? Yeah, which is good. Yeah, yep.
And then could you ask the lunchroom to put spinach on the salad bar?
I have, honestly, and everybody in this room, seriously, if you guys, I just learned this
I go to the salad bar and have them put spinach.
Do that. No, I think I just learned the other day, if you go to the salad bar and give them your little container thing, they will fill it full of spinach for you. Way better than the greens that are out there. As soon as enough people start doing that, they will put it out there. We just need to create the demand for it. My personal feeling is I think probably the less of that stuff we have, the better. The big argument out there is that diet pops use artificial sugars, right? And what's the beauty of an artificial sugar is that there's actually no calories in it, but it still tastes sweet. So there's emerging research that will suggest that one of the things that sugar does is it triggers this insulin response inside of your body. And what a lot of this new research will say is that just because there's no calories, there's no sugar, but these artificial sweeteners, their job is to mimic sugar, and as a result, your body will still create an insulin response, even though there is no sugar in there. So while you're missing the calories, the argument is you're still getting some of the negative effects that you would get if you were eating sugar, if that makes sense. That being, for example, it creates the insulin response, and now you have circulating insulin, which means you're going into storage mode with your food, putting body fat on lockdown. So I think it's hard to categorically stamp it bad. I think we can definitely say it's not good. I would just say less is more. I wouldn't make it my number one drink kind of thing. And there's all kinds of rumor, aspartame, which is the sweetener, I think, in Diet Coke, is supposedly has a really strong link to blindness. There's to me stuff like that. It's like, why gamble on it? You have one set of eyes or you have one body. Why roll the dice? Somebody else, Michelle? What do you got?
I'm kind of relating to that. I have been trying to be very careful. I know organic, a lot of people label stuff organic that's not, or they fall to get us to try to buy whatever, more expensive stuff, such as tomato sauce, which is a base for a lot of things that I try to do. And it'll say organic brown syrup or brown sugar syrup.
Yep,
What is it?
yeah.
Brown rice syrup.
Yeah, brown rice syrup, yeah.
Or organic sugar or raw sugar or all these keywords that are supposed to make you think that it's healthy, but it's not. But do you just keep, I've been buying really expensive $7 bottles of tomato sauce that have no sugar.
Yep.
Then I add a little stevia because I like a sweeter sauce. But is raw sugar going to spike glycemic index and
Yes.
all of that?
Yep, absolutely. All those, there is, you can probably Google on your phone right now, how many words are there for sugar? There are probably literally hundreds of different words and different ways they can spin and rename sugar to try and call it something else. Organic sugar is going to do everything that non-organic sugar. It's no healthier, right? An organic cookie is no healthier than a regular cookie is. So yeah, they're still going to have all the same effects. I don't think, at the end of the day, right, back to what's ideal and what's realistic, if you make a spaghetti sauce and you need to put a little bit of sugar in there, I would say fine, don't. It's what you do 90% of the time that matters. So I don't think you need to live in this horrible, horrible fear of sugar, but I think processed food and food makers get carried away with it. Some of the amounts of, like, the sugar in a regular Coke is unreal. 46 teaspoons. You know how much sugar that is? Sorry, but yeah. But yeah, no, that's back to my last slide up there with the 100-calorie snack packs. It's a marketer trick. Organic sugar is no better for you than regular sugar. It just wasn't sprayed with chemicals, but it does everything that sugar is bad inside your body. So does the organic sugar does. You buy it from Holiday versus Whole Foods. If it's the same food item, it's just as bad for you. I think people think, we were joking about that earlier, if it comes from Whole Foods, it's not bad for me.
Can you talk a little bit about boosting your metabolism by spreading out your meals throughout the day?
Yep, so there is no science to back that up. And it's a very popular, I don't want to say misconception, I used to say that too, but there is no hard scientific data that backs that up. Smaller meals, more frequent feedings during the day. Back to it depends. If that for you personally or for anybody, that may work, but there is nothing to suggest on a population-wide basis that strategy works any better than eating one huge meal at the end of the day. To be honest, there is so much myth and misconception and different sources for information for all this fitness and health stuff that this is what I do for a living, obviously, but I think it's very frustrating, to be out there because I'm sure you could, as soon as you walk out of here, you can go find an article on the internet that's going to tell you, oh yes, there is. Oh yes, that does work. So that's fine. Read that article and then look for the scientific notation. Look for the multiple studies that back that up. And I would argue you won't find any. It's what works for you, and it's so different. What works for one person, for you, it may boost your metabolism, but as a general rule, you can't say, I can't sit up here and say, guys, instead of eating 3 meals a day, if you guys all go to 6, you're going to experience a boost in your metabolism because there's nothing to show that. The things that are proven and shown is the biggest one is exercise, and specifically resistance training will boost your metabolism. So, that's a big one though. I hear that one a lot. Is that what you were getting at, or are you?
Yeah, no, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
I just heard it was good for you, but I didn't know that there was.
Right, and I'm not, and again, just to be clear, I'm not saying that's a bad strategy. If you're someone, for example, who if you get, this is me. If I get really hungry, I get hangry. And I know better than most people what to eat and what not to eat. And if I get hangry, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I will open the cupboard door and drink coffee creamer and eat cookies, and it's a disaster, right? So you could make the argument that if eating 6 small meals a day prevents you from ever getting that pang of hunger, because if you get a pang of hunger, it can be bad news, then maybe there's a reason to do that, and it works for you. But you can't categorically say it's because it boosted your metabolism. You know what I mean? There could be good reasons to do that, just it may not be what you initially thought. But if we can help you guys, even if you're not in StarFit, let us know. Unlike everybody else who works at Starkey, we have nothing to do with hearing aids. People say, well, I don't want to bother you. I'm like, this is what they hired us to do. So if we can help you guys, shoot us emails, come find us, apply for StarFit. That's it. No problem. Thanks, guys.